Welcome back, Addicts. We're talking about our E3 coverage over Bethesda, and we're definitely going to be going over what makes this conference special, which I'm going to tell you right now, spoiler, not much, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're looking forward to mobile games, VR games, things people really don't play much.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed. I even represented Bethesda today with my Fallout shirt, and they slapped me in the face. Although
I represented Eskimo Joe's in Oklahoma.
but I'm not going to try to bash them too hard because there was a few things that I did like and I am really excited for, but there's some good, bad, and ugly on this.
Okay, so what I want to start off talking about is the concert they had for like a minute.
Dude.
Andrew WK his song was on point, but I'm sorry we didn't need that.
We didn't.
I enjoyed it, but we didn't need it, and they needed to stop panning to the crowd because everyone looks so dead.
Dude, that was like the best part though. Like I was enjoying the song, and then looking at the disappointment on people's faces was just priceless.
The look of that one guy's face, he's got like his beats on, he's just kind of like, I want to die.
Yeah, that's, honestly, I thought it was a cool thing for them to do, given that, like, Sony, like, especially, like, last year capitalized on, like, their orchestra, and, like, that was really cool, and it paid off really well. I think a lot of people liked that. And this, it was like, they tried to go for that vibe, and I like rock music. I guess that's what you called it, maybe alternate rock, but, the crowd just wasn't with it. But they had that for Rage 2, which we did get to see a little bit more of Rage 2.
A little bit of gameplay.
I was a little disappointed, though, because, not at the game itself. The game itself looks great. I was just disappointed we didn't see a whole lot. I mean, we got a re-look at the trailer that they announced earlier in the week, last week.
Yep.
But as far as, new gameplay...
You got to see, part of the first mission... But
that we know of, yeah.
It was like you didn't really get to see much. And to me, watching that first trailer, this is just me. I know that they at least him and Michael when they were here, or when Michael was here, both kind of said this to me after I said this. I was like, it seems kind of like a walking simulator. There's cars, but just from what I kind of saw of it, it seemed like an open world walking simulator with guns and cars in it occasionally.
Well, I mean, Rage, especially from the first one, a main component of it was driving.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first one, they had a system where you could call for a tow, which I hope that is the case for this one, because like Colton said, if it doesn't have something like that, I can see that being a problem in terms of open world. But
now, just hear me out on this one, right? The reason I don't think there's going to be the tow system is specifically because in the trailer they say, if you see it, you can drive it. So,
well, that just could mean that all the vehicles that you see, you can obtain yourself.
Well, no, I mean, I understand that, but it was one of those things that, this guy just picks up a random car in the wasteland, and it's kind of like, okay, that's cool, do you get to keep it afterwards? So I'm iffy, but I could be wrong, and it could be a really cool game.
I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt just because of how the system worked in the first game. Because, you do have a garage and you can store a lot of different vehicles. And it does seem like there is a variety. Speaking of cars, we did get a very brief demo of the car combat, which if you're a fan of the first game, it's highly resembling of that, and it looks really smooth.
Yep.
And the car combat, we only saw about a couple minutes, even if that, a minute and a half. We mainly focused on your character, which is called Walker, which he is the last of the Rangers, which if you played the first game, you know that character had nanites, and that is another theme that's continued on in this one. Your character does have nanites, and it seems like a little bit they amplified that because you do have powers, and that was the main focus of their gameplay, which was really cool, and I really liked it. I just wish I would have saw more, because I didn't feel like we got to see enough. Now, granted, this game's not supposed to come out till spring of 2019, so there's plenty of time for them to release more, but I feel like they just because like we don't have another big conference for them to really show this at.
Well,
so I
we
just
have
feel
PAX, but
that is true. We might see more at PAX, but I don't know. I just felt like we needed to see a little bit more for me to get hyped. Or not hyped, because I already am liking this game, but I just wanted to know more before I was fully invested. But the second game that they announced, we didn't see much of it, was Doom Eternal, which we do have confirmation that is the sequel to the one that they did in 2016, which I'm hyped for. The first Doom was amazing.
Yes.
The last one was amazing. Because I know Doom's been around for a while. But I'm ready. They didn't show much, but...
I'm ready too. I think it's going to be a great game. My main worry... I will get to later because I saw that there was a bullet point in your list that you had over there.
Okay. The only thing I will say about Doom is that they did hint that we might be on Earth this time, because they did say that you'll be able to see Hell on Earth, and they said that they just teased it. So after they showed the trailer, so I'm giving that vibe that maybe we're not in space anymore, maybe we're on Earth. Who knows? But I'm really stoked to see that.
Yep.
Getting on to the next game, which is not a highlight for me in the conference at all, which is Quake Champions. I'm just never been overly hyped for the new comeback of Quake. I mean, it looks cool if you like competitive, like multiplayer aspects. If you liked maybe Doom's multiplayer from last game, you might find Quake Champions.
I'm on his side on this one. I'm not that excited for it. Like, I like Quake. I think it's a cool concept, but to me, what I was seeing was what seemed to be a Doom multiplayer with, guns all over the place that you can just pick up, but with random kind of characters you can use, or I guess champions. So it kind of gave me this feel of they're going to go for an Overwatch with the Doom mechanic in it.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have a cool announcement with this, which is between June 10th and 17th, there is free play, which I think this will give us a chance to maybe see if it changes our mind, because, I mean, at least we get a little bit of a taste of what it's like. So we can definitely update you on that if our opinions change. But I thought that was a smart move, because I don't know if a lot of people are really invested in Quake.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the main people invested in Quake are the people who play it competitively. So.
Yeah. Which the next game that they showed after Quake was not even a full game. It was just an expansion. We got a little bit of expansions rant. But this would be ESO's latest DLC, which is Argonian. It's centered around Argonia, or at least Argonians going over their territory and like a little bit diving into their story. I mean, I don't hate MMOs, but as far as ESO goes, it didn't pull me in to where I could even stay. And
can I fetch your quest, sir? Can I fetch your quest, sir?
That's if you've played 1 hour of ESO, you'll know that to be true. And if you played probably 80 hours of ESO, you probably know that still holds up.
I will say that they, at least from what I saw, now granted I only looked at the Steam numbers, so I could be wrong in this. There could be more Xbox and PlayStation players. Maybe if it's on the Wii, whatever it is now. What is it called? The Nintendo Switch or whatever?
I don't know if it's on it, though.
But from what I saw from the Steam numbers, they said there was only about 1 million to 2 million accounts that are connected to Steam, at least, along with about, I think they said their top number of yesterday, which would be Saturday, was only, I think it was said 20,128 people or something like that.
Yeah.
But the guy who was up there announcing it tried to make it seem like there was over 11 million accounts and that there was over 11 or over a million people still playing. And I'm kind of like...
Yeah. I think that's like taken with a grain of salt, because I think Pete Hines was probably like in total over the life of, however long ESO's been out now.
Yeah.
which I think that's a little bit more believable. Even if he said like variants of accounts, like let's say like somebody made like 7 variants, like different characters. Like, I could believe that even if it includes all those variations that people have. But to say that like there's like 11 million people that have bought the game and they have one account that they're playing actively, I don't know. I mean, it could be possible, but I was just kind of like, And I don't know if something that little play, or if you have 11 million people, I mean, that's a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to try to downplay that, but it does seem like you could be using your things towards something else.
I mean, in my personal opinion, they tried to inflate the numbers to make themselves seem bigger than WoW or RuneScape is, which I don't think they are, because one, RuneScape and WoW just have those, I guess you could say, family brand name kind of things behind them. Whereas ESO, yes, it has Elder Scrolls behind it, but I just don't think as many people found it as appealing as they thought they would. Because I played it for an hour or two on the launch day. Even bought the Unlimited edition, like, day of. And just, I couldn't get past the fact that it seemed to be just this mindless fetch quest of go to this place, find this thing, now go to this place and find this thing, and then bring this thing back so then you can get this thing from this person, and then go back to the first person and give it back. To me, that's just not as appealing, and I understand there's dungeons and there's enemies to fight, and you can always do that kind of stuff. Just, I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, and there's some things that I do like about ESO. I mean, I like the animation, how there's like, it seems more of like a, I don't know what I want to say. Because, for Bethesda's like main single player games, they feel a little bit clunky at times, or like, like when you're swinging a sword, there's only this motion, and that's about it. Unless you're doing a charge attack, then you might go up or like down or whatever.
Yeah.
But, it's very basic. And with ESO, it kind of capitalized on variation of like animations and stuff. So I do like that. That's a cool aspect, and I hope to see when they do Elder Scrolls 6 eventually, whenever that happens. But, I don't know. Overall, like if you're an Elder Scrolls fan, I don't know how much you stick with ESO. But, they kind of come back from this in the conference. That was like the first like little bit of a,
Of a slip up.
Yeah, of a slip up. But they come back with Prey DLC, which the Moon Crash looked pretty cool.
Yeah, Moon Crash seemed pretty cool, because I like the whole concept behind if you die or if you leave the game and you come back to it, it's a different experience every time.
Yeah, and it for me, it got kind of like that 5 vibe from Black Ops 1, the map. That reminded me a lot of that. And,
actually, if anything, it really reminded me of the map Moon from Zombies, man.
I'm sorry. That's the one I meant to say.
I got you.
Sorry. Mixed up. But, yeah, it looks great. I think people that liked Prey will like this expansion because you're in a different environment. It looks like it's a really cool setting. They got some different modes in there. They do have, like, a prop hunt ripoff that I don't know how well that will do. But, for console players, it'll allow them to have different stuff.
I like the idea of having prop hunt in more games. Mm-hmm. My issue is that I don't think prop hunt is as cool. And I understand that their whole concept is that it's one against, I think they said 5 people.
Yeah.
And the 5 people are mimics that can kill the player, but at the same time, it's like
they can change it.
I don't think they give that whole prop hunt the right deal.
Yeah, although I will say it doesn't feel forced, because Prey already had that aspect of things turning into different objects, and so it doesn't feel like it's overly out of place. And they have a bunch of other modes. I think there was like 3 or 4 different modes. They have like a survival mode coming. There's like a new game plus option, and there was something other
story
addition to the story mode. Oh well, yeah, it's the story expansion from the DLC. But the next game that's probably the other like big highlight of the conference, besides the Doom and Rage, was Wolfenstein Young Blood, which is going to be a co-op experience, as it's going to
follows BJ Blazkowicz's twin daughters.
Yeah, and it's going to be like it's going to be its own title, but I don't think it's going to be like their next big installment of Wolfenstein. It's like a like what would you call it? A companion, like a companion game for the series.
Which, I mean, I'm willing to play that. I would play it with him or one of the other guys, because I did play this Wolfenstein and I thought it was fantastic. I thought the gameplay was better than the last one they put out. I thought the story was told a lot better. Granted, my issues that I do have with it are very minor, because it's mostly that at the end of the game you can't really do much. You can't interact with any of the main characters anymore. You have to interact with all the lower characters who are just kind of like, oh, hey, you want this thing that you can get in this part of the game? Okay, here you go. You can go get it now.
Yeah. I will say that Wolfenstein 2 did a lot of things from the Wolfenstein 1 and made it better, and that was great to see them, flesh that out, improve upon it, and if they can carry over those improvements and not add anything that's going to be bad to this co-op version, it's going to be dope with 2 players. I'm all down for it.
I agree.
So I can't wait to play that. I mean, I'll definitely play it with you for sure. And so that I would say is probably
the final highlight.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight before we go on to the next game was the self-aware jokes of Skyrim. I thought that was freaking genius, and I loved every minute of it. Having just having that little bit of a skit video for us about just implementing Skyrim and everything, pagers, like mobile, Alexa, yeah, it was just hilarious. And I got to give props to Bethesda for doing that, to making fun of themselves. Todd Howard even had a few where he was like, oh, I guess apparently from what I've heard online, our games have bugs, and apparently not everything just works. And I laughed my ass off at that.
It was funny.
Yeah, and so I do give them props for that. That was probably, out of the things that weren't game-related, that was definitely the highlight in terms of that category.
Yes.
But
the last few games that were announced, that were at least shown, were the game that you were hyped for. I can't remember the name of.
Fallout 76? Well, I wanted to see that. But
let's save that one for last, because that's one of the things we're going to go into a rant about. But I mean, towards the end of the conference, there was the
Starfield. We did get a name drop for Starfield. It is officially a game that they're doing.
Didn't really see much.
It's teased. Yeah, I mean, it just had a shot of like the moon and then panning out to what looked like a satellite or maybe a space station.
Yep.
That game, they said, is going to be a next-generation game, so we're not going to see that for a while.
Yeah, and then they name-dropped Skyrim 6 and kind of gave a little bit of a hint of where it's going to be.
Skyrim 6. That's probably what they're going to call it instead of Elder Scrolls 6.
Or Skyrim 6, Elder Scrolls 6, whatever you want to call it.
I wouldn't be surprised. But, yeah, a lot of people got up and clapped at the end, and I just don't really agree for that. I mean, all we saw, it could have been in-engine, but I doubt it was. It was just a picture.
Was the name Bethesda scrolled into a small city and then said, Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, and, I'm somebody that loves Elder Scrolls.
Yep.
But I wouldn't say that I've been dying to see this. I mean, obviously I'm excited for whatever they come up with next, but I've been, slowly chugging along, like, just seeing where they go, because, with Fallout 4 especially, that was a game that I thought was good, and they did do some things that they changed that I liked, but overall I thought it was a disappointment. And so at that point, I lost a little bit of my hype for when Elder Scrolls 6 came out, and so that stinted my excitement a little bit. But I don't think this is anything people should get excited for, because one, it's a long ways away, so people shouldn't be expecting this, anytime soon. And that's one reason to not get your hype for. And then two, we didn't see anything. We don't have any idea of the quality that's being put into Elder Scrolls 6. Now, obviously, I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt on Elder Scrolls 6 because that is their baby, and arguably they spend more time with the Elder Scrolls series than they do with Fallout. Mm-hmm. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they actually nail it on the head with Elder Scrolls 6. But for right now, I think it's too early to say either or.
Now, if you don't mind, can I go on a little rant?
Yes, go on.
So, a major thing that at least I saw them hitting on was, first off, VR games, of course, and then mobile games. And they announced, they announced one mobile game at least, or at least a new mobile game, one new mobile game, which was Skyrim Blades.
Yeah, you're right. Blades.
And, okay, it was cool to see, but I don't really want to play a Skyrim game on my phone. But then they started saying, and then we'll make sure that we put this cross-platform to where you can play on your Xbox or in VR and PlayStation and other consoles like that. And then something just kind of struck me when I heard VR. I'm like, this isn't the first time I've heard this in a conference. They were talking about Fallout VR. They were talking about Skyrim VR. Then they talked about this VR, and they seemed to really want to push this narrative that they were going to VR a lot and to mobile games a lot, because they also brought up their card game that no one cares about. That I didn't even know was a thing. But my main issue with this was that they seemed to really just want to drive home VR, cell phone. You can put this in portrait mode and play it in meetings and just...
Yeah.
You know those feelings when you just want to cringe up and just kind of curl into a ball? That's how I felt with that.
Yeah, I don't want to knack on Bethesda for reaching out to other platforms and to more players, because I do feel like they're trying to... Their heart is in the right place for wanting to provide content for players in between their big releases. Mm-hmm. They want to try to give Fallout Shelter... they're trying to get it out there so that people can play something Fallout to tie them over for the next release. They're wanting to give an Elder Scrolls game that people can play between the long gaps. And so, I give them that, but I just don't see why people, I don't personally care about it. People might find it cool, but it's just something that I'm like, honestly, I would rather have the long gap and you use those resources for something else. Put them on, the next Fallout or Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6, I don't know. It's like one of those things that I personally don't like it, and I get what's Colton's saying, because I feel the same way. But at the same time, I try to look at it from Bethesda's point. I know they're trying to do well, but at the same time, I don't agree with their approaches to it.
I think my main concern is that, like you said, their hearts are in the right places, right? Their hearts are in the right places. We want to give you content, but I also kind of fear that Bethesda's going to start trying to push VR and cell phone games more. And,
it may not just be because for us gamers, you got to be thinking, most of the time we only see new stuff, at least from Bethesda, around E3 or at E3. And, the last several years, at least in my recent mind, especially last year, we've seen ESO every single conference since it's come out. Yep. We've seen, VR since it's kicked off with PlayStation 4 and then the Oculus getting more popular. We see people trying to capitalize on that. And, Bethesda's talked about it, every single conference since that's becoming more and more of a trend. And especially with mobile, with Fallout Shelter, I actually liked Fallout Shelter when it first came out. That was mainly because the hype for Fallout 4 consumed me to the point where I bought everything, which was not healthy. But I still enjoyed it for the few months that I had before Fallout 4. But there's just these things where it may not be actually as oversaturating as we feel at the moment, but seeing it year after year after year, it starts to get to that point where it feels like you're seeing the same thing and they're not working on the things that you really want to see. And I think it's just that lack of seeing something, truly that you can get your heart fully invested in, and seeing most of the conference being a quote-unquote disappointment is what really is the negative aspect of it. It's maybe not so much what they're doing, it's just that we're seeing it over and over again, and it's not really something that we can actually get behind.
Now, let's move on to what is, at least in my opinion, admittedly, the most disappointing part of the conference, which was Fallout 76.
Yeah. Coming from a long-time Fallout fan, I I loved the first games, Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout Tactics. I really appreciate them for what they are. I'm not so much of a turn-based type gamer, but I really love the stories and the way that they have characters, portrayed in that.
Yeah.
Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas are the games where I really fell in love with the Fallout universe because they were more my type of platform of a game. Yeah. And I thought they were perfect. I thought they were great RPG. I mean, they had their flaws, but for me, they were a great role-playing game that I spent countless of hours for. Fallout 4 felt like a little bit of a disappointment. They kind of, stepped back from an RPG element and made it a looter shooter, and also kind of like a, build your own world, like a Minecraft, which I wasn't really a fan of. And I was really feeling disappointed.
Yeah.
When we saw Fallout 76, I felt promising aspects when they showed the trailer for the Vault. When they showed the trailer at Microsoft, I was getting, more pumped for because I was like, the world's looking really great. It's got some great new enemy type stuff we've never seen before. It's arguably the most interesting setting we've seen in the Fallout universe, with it being set so close to the bombs falling. But
here, wait.
We get to this kicker.
Because, and I will tell. I'm just gonna say this. I told him and Graham before this conference, there's gonna be building in this game because there was one line in it, one line in that main trailer that I listened to over and over again, and it was, we have to build, or we have to rebuild not just cities or not just walls and cities, but America or something like that.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and my heart just kind of wrenched itself. It was like,
because immediately you got Vietnam flashbacks of Fallout 4 with the building settlement, and like another settlement needs your help for building this, and it's like, oh, I hope that's not the focus, because that's what the main complaint was for Fallout 4, arguably.
But then what happens is that we see the gameplay trailer. You figure out that the leak of it being an MMO was true, and
well, it's not so much an MMO as it's a shared world, like, multiplayer thing, but it's still got that, like, you just took the essence of Fallout and you ripped the soul out of its body, and you're just like, what am I left with? How do I
mean, I understand that they said you can play it by yourself and you don't have to have it online, but just, if you're going to make an online game, you kind of incentivize playing with your friends and stuff like that, but...
Well, I think what was the kicker about this, because we knew there was going to be an online component to this.
Yes.
It was leaked well in advance of E3's conference.
Even though they tried to cover it up like a few days ago.
Yeah. But I think what the kicker for me was, and I don't know, you can tell me if you feel differently than this, but I thought, okay, if there's an online component, I'm down with co-op. Down with co-op. I don't think it's something that I would necessarily put Fallout in the direction of, but I welcome it because, there's so many times I, talk to my friends about Fallout, and one of the things, that was kind of yearning always in my heart was the lack of being able to experience it with my friends at the same time. But what they did was they made it not only co-op, but they have a PvP heavy aspect where they're actually going up against actual players. You're, even to the point where you're nuking them.
Yep.
And I just feel like that just lost all my joy about this, because I knew there was going to be an online component, but having that sense of, turning it into a multiplayer, it blew my mind that they went in that direction.
You see, my thought is that if they make it, like, at least this is my personal opinion, is that if they make it to where you can play co-op with your friends without having to be in a server with other people, and just you and your friends exploring the world, you all wake up at the same time.
Yeah.
But what they wanted to do was make it so that you could go from server to being alone to a new server.
Yeah.
And still have all your progress and stuff. And I understand that's a good idea, but just... I think that if you're going to do a co-op game that's Fallout, you can't make it an online game. You have to make it a multiplayer. I can invite my friends and we can build together. We can find supplies together, that kind of thing.
Which, I think they did say that there's not, there is, an invite system, I don't know how it really is. They said there's not servers, but there's got to be because they said that there's 5 people to a game.
No, they said there's 24 or 25.
Did they?
Yeah, they said
Okay.
that, like, per like map, or, well, okay, per Virginia that they have, which there has to be a server, with how many people they're going to have,
Right.
there has to be a server, is that, from what I heard them say, was that there was, like, going to be 24, 25 people per game.
Okay. Well, it's like, yeah, just having it, because there's so many things that you could have done. I feel like for Fallout, if you're going to do a co-op system, or even Elder Scrolls, I feel like 2-player co-op is like the max you should go. You know?
Granted, my personal opinion is that I think with co-op with it, is that if you're going to do 4 or 5 people per game, you need to make it to where you can have the option of not joining a server.
Yeah.
Because I think that if you did that, then you and your 4 or 5 friends can build up Virginia. You can build up your little settlement that you
If
want
they would
to
have
make.
handled it like Minecraft, that
Yes.
probably would have worked out a little
Yes.
bit better, especially with the building system that they have incorporated into it.
Because
But I feel like it's going to be more like a GTA
Yeah.
online.
not only that, but the thing that I thought was a really just amazing idea was these monsters.
Gosh, the setting it's such a waste because it's so good.
Granted, I will say I am going to buy it because the date it comes out, I have reasons for that.
The collector's edition does look dope.
And I'm going to get the collector's edition. I will get the game and I will play it. I am hesitant to do a review on it and not just want to bash it, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
I just worry that this feeling that I have in my gut that they won't do it to where me and you can just play by ourselves, or me, you, Graham, and Michael can all just play together. And it's going to be, no, you have to go against other players. No, you have to do this and you have to do this. You can't explore. You got to build a settlement.
Yeah, because they did say that you could play this whole thing in single player, but I think it's going to be to the point where you can, but because of how they've built the world to be mainly a co-op multiplayer experience, it's going to be so hard to play by yourself. I mean, like, for instance, like ESO. That's a game that you technically could play by yourself, but there's some areas, there's some enemies, there's some bosses in the world that you're just not going to be able to tackle by yourself. Or even if you do, you're going to be there for freaking like 10 hours just simultaneously, just shooting at this one target, that's got like a 10,000 health bar. And I don't know, like, I just feel like, you're gonna, if you feel like you can jump into single player just by yourself, like, I don't know. I'm going to have to wait and see till the game comes out and I play it for myself. Or even there's a beta coming out that we might be able to get on. But, like, I feel like if you don't have online specifically, I don't know. I think I would suggest wait for reviews because I don't know if you're going to be able to have a good experience with this single player. Like, I'm with Colton. I do want to try the game. Honestly, I felt like I got so slapped in the face that I don't know if I even want to, feel like I'm wasting my money to play it. So that might be something if you're going to pre-order it, I might wait till you get it, get your hands on it, tell me what your first impressions are. Then after I feel like I have a good sense of what it is, then I might get into it and then we can start checking the online aspect of it. But I don't know. I can't bring myself to it at this point. Maybe after the E3's done and I've simmered down and I've had time to think about it, maybe I'll change, be a little bit more open. But right now, I feel really betrayed. Because Fallout is one of my favorite franchises. And it just felt like it got thrown into a hole and covered with dirt. And they just said, rest in peace. I have a lot of worries. And this is another game that I feel like instead of showing some of their mobile games, I feel like they should have spent more time focusing on Fallout 76 because there's a lot of... If everything from Fallout 4, if nothing changed from Fallout 4 and they brought every single aspect of Fallout 4 into Fallout 76, I am immensely afraid for this game. If they've changed some stuff, it might have eased my reaction to it. But see, we don't know. They didn't go into any detail because in terms of progression, Fallout 4, you could be good at everything. You could be like a god almost if you went far enough. And if that's the same level of leveling that they have in Fallout 76, what's the point in playing with multiple people when you could get to the point in Fallout 4 where you're like, oh, Mother Mirelurk or, Superhuman Behemoth, I just one-shotted that with my pistol.
Yeah.
So if they balanced it more, like bringing back skills, making perks more of a reward aspect and having some, actually interesting bonuses, then maybe I would feel a little bit more confident with Fallout 76, but I just can't say that now. Now, granted, I will say that getting back to what we were saying earlier on the other games, I get where Bethesda's coming from. They have a good heart. They want to provide us with content to, give us some time to in between, other games. And I feel like Fallout 76 is one of those because they're setting it up like ESO to be able to build on it for years to come, to tie us over until the next, Fallout 5 potentially. But I just feel like they did it in a wrong way, and I feel like it was another ESO. They misstepped in the wrong way to tie over fans.
Well, not only that, but going back to the whole nuclear thing is that, I don't want to be sitting there trying to build my settlement and then all of a sudden just boom.
Yeah, and then it's gone.
Because then I just kind of feel like, well, then what was the point?
Yeah. It feels like when you invite a random into your Minecraft server and then they just start screwing up crap.
Yeah, not only that, but the other thing is that there's going to be those people that are just going to guard that. They're just going to sit there and wait for people to come down and they're just going to wreck them.
Yeah.
Because those people are already low on health, and what are they going to do? They're going to sit there with their own squad. They're going to pick up all these keys, and then boom! Oh, hey, there goes another nuke.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things. Like, since they didn't touch on it, we don't know if like the way you share the world is you just invite players. If it's you just invite players, then you can stop that kind of stuff from happening. But if it's like if you're like, oh, I want to go online, and it just grabs random people unless you specifically tell it not to, then you're going to have stuff like that happen, and you may not even know it if it's as seamless as they're claiming. And so that's a concern. But, I feel like we've kind of we've ranted on it enough. I feel like you've gotten our opinions of it. So I want to start to close this with our thoughts and what we're most excited for the next conferences. So do you want to start off with what you're most excited for, Colton?
If we're talking about Bethesda conference next year, nothing really.
Well,
but if we're talking about the next conferences in general, I am very excited personally for Sony and Square Enix, specifically Square Enix, with hoping to see more gameplay of Kingdom Hearts 3. Sony, I am very hyped to see if they're going to have any new exclusives. Which, usually E3 is where Sony shows their most exclusive and will throw everything at the wall and just do what they can. I'm not as excited for Ubisoft after the blunder with the newest Assassin's Creed, and then they're already making another one.
Yeah. My personal opinion for the upcoming conferences, like you, I really want to see. My big thing for Square Enix would probably be the Avengers project. I'm really curious to see what that's like. If it's going to be an Ultimate Alliance, or if it's going to be more of a like Spider-Man PS4 vibe, like playthrough. I really hope it's more like Spider-Man PS4. I do like Ultimate Alliance, but we'll see. But that's what I'm really psyched for that conference.
Whatever happened to that game?
For which one?
Spider-Man PS4.
It's coming. It's coming at this conference, and Sony, they're going to show more of it. Which
awesome.
All of Sony's exclusives, I'm 100% all in. Like, I can't wait to see those. The one that I want to see the most of that they've already announced is probably Ghost of Tsushima or Death Stranding.
Yep.
Those are really interesting ones. Like you, I like to see what they haven't announced yet, because they always have good stuff, and especially if there are any more exclusives. Bring it on. Ubisoft. There's not anything that I can think of that I really want to see, unless they're saving Splinter Cell for there. I would be curious if they have a Splinter Cell one, but other than that, we'll just see what they got. Right now, I think out of all the ones we've seen, EA, not that impressed. I did like Anthem, though, so that was like the only thing there, but I would still say about average, like maybe like 4 or 5 out of 10. Microsoft did better than I thought. Currently, I think they're winning this E3.
Yeah, I would agree
We'll
with
see
that.
after Sony, though.
Because Sony always finds a way to win.
Yeah, Sony always has the trump card ready to throw it down.
Literally trump card.
And then Bethesda, we already know from watching this that it's a little bit below what I expected. But still some good things coming.
Yep.
But anyway, guys, that will conclude our coverage on Bethesda's E3 2018 conference. And we can't wait to cover the upcoming ones, so stay tuned for that. As always, guys, stay addicted.